Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. Alright, so pack one, pick one. Our rare is Repudiate Replicate. Not the most exciting rare, it's kind of like a bad quasi-duplicate. What else do we have? Some reasonable uncommons. Especially Biogenic Upgrade can be quite devastating. And then looking at the commons, I've got a pretty good one in Blade Juggler, which I'm a fan of. So I think this pick is mostly Blade Juggler versus Upgrade, and I could see going either way. I don't think Replicate is powerful enough to justify the double color mana cost, since it kind of pigeonholes you into Simic right away, whereas at least Upgrade you can play in Gruul and Simic and it's going to be fine in either one. And then of course Blade Juggler, very versatile as well. And a nice 2-for-1. Yeah, let's stick to the Blade Juggler for now, I think. And then we can hope to wheel maybe a Carrion Imp. And maybe we end up in an Esper deck and we can play Azorius Guildgate. Not a ton of exciting stuff we can wheel. If we end up Rakdos, we might wheel Daggercaster as well, which would be a fine card as well. Even if we don't main deck it, a great sideboard card. Alright, so had we taken Biogenic Upgrade, we would probably be looking at either Crusher or Aeromonculus. Given that we took Blade Juggler, what are we looking at? Pitiless Pontiff is pretty decent. Definitely a strong uncommon, plays well with Blade Juggler. And I think pretty much on the same power level as something like a Crusher, or even Aeromonculus is pretty good. Does require some sacrifices to be made, so we do want to pair it with some of the Afterlife creatures if we can. There's also Chillbringer, which is great, but doesn't pair all that well with our Blade Juggler, so seems like a fine card to take here, and can hope to wheel Dead Revels, Imp, even Orator would be fine wheels. Alright, I'm pretty happy with a Summary Judgment. Best card in the pack overall. It's probably between Judgment and Guildmage, and Judgment pairs pretty well with our first two picks, so don't see a reason to deviate, and we can hope to wheel a Panther. Alright, well, Grotesque Demise, fourth pick, probably one of the best commons in the set alongside Blade Juggler, so that's definitely a sign that black is open, and a ton of cards we can also hope to wheel here between Locket, Imp, Orator, maybe even Guildgate. So Orzhov is looking good. We did open Crab the Carnarium, but it's not exactly a card we want in an Orzhov deck typically. Definitely a Nombo with Pontiff and Blade Juggler. There's a Messenger, which is a fine 4-drop for the deck. Pairs well with our Pontiff. So don't really see a reason to take anything over it. And a one-off Consigned to the Pit can be a totally fine addition to any black deck. Now we have a Viscopa Vampire as a potential filler card. Don't think we're high alerting. Don't have the best start for a high alert deck. And don't really see a reason to deviate from black-white at the moment. So it's pretty much filler Vampire that we're sometimes not even gonna play versus Azorius Guildgate, which gives us kind of an out to splash blue and makes a potential Gate Colossus or Archway Angel better if we pick those up. Yeah, Vampire's pretty replaceable. I think the Gate is a bit more promising if we get the right cards for it. Alright, well that's a nice 8th pick. Both Dead Revels and Ill-Gotten Inheritance are both excellent. Dead Revels is good too, but there was a pack earlier that we might wheel a Dead Revels in, so that makes the value go down a little bit as well. So I don't mind Inheritance. It is, I think, better in the aggressive Rakdos decks, but our deck is pretty aggressively slanted at the moment, so I don't hate it. Alright, we wheeled Carrion Imp, okay 4-drop. If we need some filler. It does compete with Syndicate Messenger, which is usually better. but I'm not the biggest fan of Undercity's Embrace, so I think we'll take the Imp, and now we can take a Dead Revels, perfect. And now we'll take an uncommon for the Vault. And second Imp or second Consign. I think second Consign is probably more useful. We're likely to pick up another Messenger at some point. If we face like a big green deck and we don't end up with a ton of Death Touch creatures, then Consign's useful. Carrion Imp can be okay against the Rakdos aggro decks. I think I'll go with the Consign. I think it's a pretty marginal decision. Gotta cry anyway. Take a Signet, or a Locket rather. And a Crocodile, which we usually don't end up playing since we can pick up enough Thralls, but you never know. Alright, so not the pack we were hoping to open. Some powerful cards in other colors. The best we have is Judgment and Grudian, which is not too exciting. Probably going for another Judgment. And then hope to wheel Grudian. Alright, definitely taking Thrall or Juggler out of this pack. Question is which one? Probably leaning Thrall, and then hope to wheel the Juggler instead of the other way around. There's also Gatebreaker Ram in the pack, which is quite strong, but we're pretty far away from that. And pretty happy with a Plague White here, good 2-drop for the deck. Can hope to wheel Senate Griffin. Alright, do we want a third Summary Judgment or a Twilight Panther? Panther does play well with our Dead Revels, can get it back after we trade it off. Judgment, of course, nice removal spell. There's a pretty good chance we wheel Panther or get one later. So let's take a look at our curve. We are lacking some early creatures, which I wouldn't mind picking up. Our 3-drop is pretty empty, unless we put Juggler in it, but then we need more 2-drops to enable Spectacle in the first place. I don't think the pick here is the second Inheritance, since we just need more early action, otherwise Inheritance is not going to be very useful. So I think we take the Plague White here, and then if we wheel Inheritance, fine, if not, it's no big deal. Alright, I don't mind the Gutter Bones over Orator. We've got a few flying creatures that can get in there. We've got Inheritance that can help us enable the ability and plays well alongside Pontiff. And alright, interesting decision. Guildgate versus Locket. Locket would be pretty decent in our deck since we don't have any 3-drops yet. Can help us ramp into turn 4 Thralls. Plays well with our Gutterbone since we can go turn 3 Locket into a 1-drop, and gives us the ability to maybe play fewer lands and have a bit more card draw in the late game. But of course mana fixing is also pretty nice. So I think this is actually pretty close. I think I'll take a Guildgate, but could easily see taking the Locket as well. Alright, more Gutterbones. And we wield Grudian, which is fine, since we kinda needed a 3-drop, plays well in our deck. Wow, wield the Blade Juggler, perfect alongside Gutterbones, of course. Our deck is shaping up pretty aggressive, so a Sentinel's Mark would actually be reasonable here, but definitely gotta take the Blade Juggler over it. Don't need a third Consign. I could see a weird circumstance where Artist ends up in our deck. And at least it's an uncommon for the Vault, so might as well. Take a Thirsting Shade over third Consign. And wield Inheritance, perfect. And now that our curve is getting lower with these Gutterbones, the Inheritance also looks a lot better. So we opened a Hero of Precinct 1. Pretty good 2-drop, but we don't have a ton of multicolor stuff. So it's not the most high value Hero of Precinct 1 ever. That being said, it's still an okay 2-drop, and we can hope to wheel a Guildgate, another Messenger. Don't think we want to clear the stage. but I think I'm still down with the hero, and then we can maybe prioritize multicolor spells a bit higher. Bellhaunt is great here. And is there anything we can hope to wheel? Like, Gate Colossus could still be okay if we end up with 1 or 2 extra gates in our deck, but at the moment it's not looking too exciting, and I don't think there's anything else we really want. This pack is kind of a brick, although there is Senate Griffin, which is multicolor for hero, and a fine 4-drop if we don't have enough of them, although the 4-drops in the deck are pretty stacked already. Messenger, Imp, Haunt, more of a 2-drop later in the game, double Inheritance, but I could see Griffin being better than Carrion Imp, for example. Alternatively, we could take a Footlight Fiend, that's just a cheap creature, pretty decent against some of the aggro decks that have a ton of 1 toughness stuff, and of course also multicolor for hero, but I think Griffin's more likely to end up in our main deck. Yeah, this pack doesn't have anything to offer. Savage Smash is pretty good. Guildmage is pretty good. Even Growth Chamber Guardian without a second copy is totally fine. There's some pretty good cards in this pack, but not for our deck, sadly. So we can take a Gateway Plaza just in case we end up splashing blue somehow, but we're already pretty deep into the 3rd pack, so it seems unlikely. I guess there's a small chance the Gate Colossus wheels and we want an extra gate so we can play it. Or we can just take a rare, so we get a few gems. Alright, anything here? Could take a drill bit, probably for the sideboard. Don't think this is a rally to battle deck. Orator would be an okay 2-drop, nothing exciting. Scavenger's not looking too bad when we have 2 Gutter Bones we can sacrifice. Of course, the problem is we already have a lot of 4-drops. So it's unlikely to make the cut. So now that we did pick up some more 2-drops and the Gutter Bones, Blade Juggler is looking more realistic as a 3-drop in the deck, which makes the curve look a lot better. Probably not playing the Carrion Imp at this point. Don't see a reason to play the Azorius Guildgate. And probably not playing both Consigns. So we do still want to pick up like 2 or 3 playables for the main deck. And is that going to be Orator? Is that going to be maybe a Scavenger after all? Yeah, we might play Orator. It's not the worst 2-drop. There's also a chance we wheel Drill Bit. It's not a card that's picked very highly. We could technically cast Bedeck for double black. Not a bad removal spell. And it is multicolor for hero. Sky Tether doesn't look amazing in our deck. Since we're usually attacking on the ground to win the game, we only ended up with a single Grasping Thrall. Don't have a ton of flying creatures, a few at 4 mana. And then we've got Inheritance to win the game, so Sky Tether does pair well with Inheritance in that aspect. Bladebrand could also be okay in our deck, give some of our small creatures Death Touch, but I think Bedeck is probably good enough. Just double black plus 3/3, we don't have a ton of high toughness creatures outside of Bellhaunt, so for the most part this is going to be used to target the opponent's creatures to kill them. And what did we get 7th pick here? Sparemangler's okay, could use more 3-drops. Could also make a case for Viscopa Vampire because we have hero. But usually I think we prefer Sparemangler over Vampire. And then there's also Exposed that we could pick up for the sideboard as a pretty potent sideboard card in some matchups. So could go either way here. Yeah, I think we like the Mangler. We've got a few flyers as well. So outside of being able to use Sparemangler as kind of a 4/1 flash ambush creature, we can also use it to get in 2 more damage by pumping one of our other flying creatures. And I guess now we'll take a Scavenger. Don't know full main deck it. Wield a Guildgate, nice. Take another gate, I guess. In case we somehow want to splash our Fireblade Artist in some matchup. Now I'll take the Footlight Fiend for the sideboard. And I don't think the spick matters too much. Take a Veteran, I guess. And wield the Drill Bit, perfect. And the Blade Brand. We might actually main deck the Blade Brand. So the draft went pretty well. Ended up with a lot of playables. Got a ton of removal between triple Judgment. We've got Bedag Bedazzle. We've got Grotesque Demise. And then some nice multicolor cards with Pontiff, Bellhaunt, Thrall. And then double Gutter Bones and Heroes, some decent rares. Alright, so we need to make a couple of cuts here. Definitely not going to play red. We'll take a look at the mana base distribution in a second. Probably going to favor black for Gutter Bones. I don't think we're playing Rakdos Guildgate for Bedazzle. It's gonna come up very rarely that we want to cast this, and the fact that this comes into play tapped I think is a little bit more relevant. And especially with Gutter Bones, we want to play as many untapped swamps as we can. So we need to make 2 cuts. What cards are on the cutting block? Could see cutting Consign to the Pit. Could see cutting Orator. Yeah, Consign seems cuttable since we've got enough removal. Like, it wouldn't be crazy to play 16 lands since our curve is relatively low. But we can spend our mana pretty well between returning Gutter Bones from the graveyard, sacrificing Inheritances, drawing cards with Blade Juggler. We've got a Dead Revels that is pretty mana hungry. So I don't know if we want to cut a land, but it's not unreasonable. If we take a look at our actual curve, if we kind of remove the conditional cards, this is kind of how our curve looks like. So our interaction is triple Judgment, Blade Brand, Bedag, Demise, and then we've got a Dead Revels for the grindy matchups. So we've got a reasonable looking creature curve. And then we're trying to win the game with double Inheritance and a bunch of flyers to kind of close out the game. And hopefully we can get in some damage early with our 1 and 2 drops. I don't think it's unreasonable to go down to 16 lands. And we also have 2 Guild Gates for mana fixing, which makes it easier to play fewer. Yeah, we could play the Footlight Fiend in the main deck alongside Blade Brand to combo with it. So I think at the end of the day I'm just gonna cut a land. I can get behind Fiend over Orator. I think that's totally reasonable. Sure. Extra multicolor for hero. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be 8-6 or 7-7, but all these Gutter Bones make me wanna stick to 8 swamps, also helps with Footlight Fiend on turn 1. I think 8-7 or 8-6 is okay. Alright, any predictions on the draft? I think we can make a reasonably deep run with this. Alright, we're on the draw with only a 1-lander. If we do draw 2 lands in a row, this hand's quite decent, and we do have the Footlight Fiend plus Blade Brand combo. I think on the draw we can probably keep this. Alright, we'll play Gutter Bones on turn 1. Yeah, it's definitely a little risky to keep a 1-lander. Alright. There we go, always had it. It's actually interesting whether to attack with the Gutter Bones or not, since we don't want them to enable Spectacle on turn 3, and we would rather block with the Gutter Bones than a Plague White. I think we'll just stay back on defense. But I could see attacking there as well. Spear Spear, don't really mind seeing that. They are attacking. Nope. Alright. 3rd land is perfect, so now we can attack with both and then play a Blade Juggler most likely. And they're probably going to trade Reveler for Plague White, which is acceptable. So our hand's shaping up nicely. So we still have the Footlight Fiends plus Blade Brand synergy here. Opponents has their own Blade Juggler, which we might Grotesque Demise here. just to keep up the pressure. Demise and play Fiend. Opponent is thinking with 1 mana up. I guess if it's a combat trick giving +1/+1 first strike, Grotesque Demise is looking pretty bad. Or they might have had the split card. Wouldn't it make more sense for them to have the split card that can deal 1 damage, and they were considering whether or not they wanted to kill Gutterbones or keep it in hand to make us discard 2? And then of course they could still use it in our turn to kill the Gutterbones, which is why they maybe waited. But either way, if it's not the combat trick, we would be fine to Grotesque Demise. That being said, we picked up a Syndicate Messenger. So instead I think we will just attack. Could also make a case for, if they do have Carnival Carnage, keep land in hand, since we would rather discard land here perhaps than 2 spells. But then we probably should have gone for the Grotesque Demise. So I think we will just play a Messenger here. I don't know, I could also see keeping the land in hand there, going for the Grotesque Demise instead. Keep our Blade Juggler in play. But we'll see what they do. Alright, more Blade Jugglers. We might demise this one. This Footlight Fiend plus Bladebrand is looking good. What happens if we attack with Gutterbones and Messenger? Opponent might just take it. Or they might trade the Plague White for the Gutterbones. Could Grotesque Demise a Blade Juggler, then our opponent is more incentivized to maybe play defensively with their Plague White. Could go Demise plus Footlight Fiend. I mean, I guess we could play Fiend and have both Bladebrand and Summary Judgment up, which is not bad. I guess we'll attack with both, see what they do. They just take it. Alright. I think I'm into Footlight Fiend, keep up both Bladebrand and Judgment here. And if they do make us discard 2, then we might discard Judgment and Plague White, or Judgment and Demise. We'll see. Would love for this to work. Of course, if they do have Carnival Carnage, they could kill our Footlight Fiend in response to the Bladebrand. We don't get to draw the card, but then Footlight Fiend dies, we get to kill Plague White before damage, which is pretty good too. So it's actually not all that bad, and then instead of making us discard 2, they just trade for the Bladebrand essentially. So I don't think it's a disaster if that's what they have. So I think we go for it. Of course, if they have something like Grotesque Demise... Alright, they did have the Storm Strike. Well, glad we didn't go for the Grotesque Demise then. So we don't get to kill Blade Juggler, but we still get to draw a card and kill a Plague White, which seems fine. And this now happens before regular damage, so we don't even take the 2 damage. We'll see what happens here. Another Spear activation. Opponent's already down to 7. Judgment on Blade Juggler is looking decent. Alright, that levels back to creatures. That's pretty good here. Not what we wanted to see. And Skewer the Critics, so they had both Skewer and a Storm Strike there, which maybe explains all the pauses we saw earlier. Alright, so we just want to try and apply as much pressure as possible. We can Spire Mangler, pumping the Spirit if we want to. Attack for 5 damage, put them to 2, and then we probably have lethal with the Flyers next turn. So that seems like a pretty good play. Alternatively, we could attack for 3, put them to 4, play Griffin. And then we might have lethal with Spire Mangler as well. I guess playing Griffin plays a bit better around the top deck to Daggercaster that they could have, since if we Spire Mangler and they have Daggercaster, we get destroyed. So let's attack for 3. I think we're happy for opponent to activate Spear an additional time. We'll keep that. Our opponent's at 4 life, so every Spear activation is pretty painful. I think we're happy if our opponent taps out for Blade Juggler here, so... Opponent needs to find multiple answers for all the flyers, because we have Spire Mangler. Did it, top deck is Cure. But I'll need something else too here. Well, they drew into 2 1-mana removal spells for both our flyers. It's pretty impressive. But I think we'll still be okay here. We can Grotesque Demise, Blade Juggler attack, force them to chump block. Although then they can enable Spectacle for Reveler, which is pretty bad for us. Yeah, this game became a lot more complicated all of a sudden. Could also go Plague White plus Pontiff. But if our opponent wants to, they can still use Spear Spewer to enable Spectacle on the Reveler. How likely are they to block Gutterbones if we attack? I guess we'll attack. See what happens. I expect him to chump block with the Spear Spewer. That's fine. So now they don't have an easy way of enabling Spectacle on the Reveler. If we play 2 2-drops here, or Judgment plus Plague White, or Judgment plus Pontiff. So I guess we're okay playing a slightly longer game. Just Judgment the Juggler right now. Play a Plague White. And just plan to block. Don't let them draw 3 with Reveler. So we'll just trade here. Could also have taken it, so let them Spectacle Reveler, and then we can attack back for lethal with Grotesque Demise. There's a lot of things we could have done last turn, not sure which one the best play would have been. Either way, we probably just want to Grotesque Demise here and play a Pontiff. Alright, so despite our opponent having some miraculous draws to get rid of both our flyers, we should be able to get there. And we did get to see some more of their deck, so they have double Skewer the Critics, Carnival Carnage, Storm Strike as kind of instant speed or removal. So how do we want to sideboard in this matchup? Cry of the Carnarium would be pretty good, but of course it does also wipe our own board. So there's definitely situations where Cry is going to be bad. I don't think we want Drill Bit. Their deck is a bit too low curve. Carrion Imp could be decent since they have Dead Revels in their deck as well. Can exile a creature. Inheritance doesn't look amazing. Yeah, Crocodile would be reasonable too as a good blocker on the ground. Opponent didn't show us a lot of flying creatures. So just a big toughness creature like Crocodile could be good. Footlight Fiend seems good. Judgment seems good. They have seen Bladebrand, so we could also take it out. It's not the best against Rakdos. Their creatures are pretty small, so we don't need the Death Touch as much. Could also take out Grudian for that same reason. Could transform into a slightly more controlling deck with Cry and the Crocodile. Maybe even Scavenger. Do have to sideboard pretty quickly here, don't have a ton of time. Spire Mangler I think is cuttable. 1 toughness is pretty vulnerable to their Carnival Carnage. And it's not a great blocker. I think we'll try this. Alright, how about this one? It's definitely possible we should have gone up to 17 lands after sideboard as well, since our curve is slightly higher. But this hand seems keepable, and we've got some 3 toughness creatures to leverage Cry. Hero is pretty likely to eat removal spell at some point as well. Yeah, Cry is pretty high variance, but I could see it being decent. So because we have Hero, we might want to save the Footlight Fiend for a turn. Don't think that's unreasonable. I guess we can also keep up Judgment. Yeah, that's probably better actually. Not let them enable Spectacle on Blade Juggler. We don't love using Judgment before we use Cry. They have a Roustabout instead. So is it time for Hero? We're not gonna deny Spectacle next turn anyway, so that's probably fine. Again, kind of a nombo with our Cry of the Carnarium. So we could also just play Gutterbones in hopes of sacking it to Scavenger, setting up Cry afterwards. Could just play Footlight Fiend to trade. I think we'll play Hero. And then just try and make some tokens to buy time, and then set up a Cry of the Carnarium. There's Blade Juggler. A land. And Skewer. Alright, it's too bad. So Cry of the Carnarium right now doesn't seem all that bad. Take away all their pressure. What's the alternative? It's not like we have any great alternatives, so I think we'll just go for the simple 2-for-1. So, even though it was just a 2-for-1, it was still pretty effective. Since we have maybe a Scavenger coming up, I would prefer to play Gutterbones. So I think we'll go Gutterbones plus Plague White. Looks like they might have a Carnival Carnage in hand here, or Storm Strike. Alright, Carnival. That's fine. So we're just hoping for a 4th land here. Our opponent's deck is pretty stacked. Multiple Blade Jugglers, Carnival Carnage, multiple Skewers, Plague White, so they've got a very solid looking Rakdos deck. Hopefully this Scavenger can stabilize us. I don't think we risk attacking, even though I guess our opponent's pretty likely to take it. Yeah, sure. So we got our 2 free damage in. And then we can scry for a 5th land for Grasping Thrall, more removal. Inheritance could be decent if we manage to stabilize, and with the 3 creatures we have in hand, that seems pretty likely. So we'll put land first, so we have the option of both Thrall or Fiend plus Messenger, and then Inheritance. Can start getting some life back. I think that's okay. They haven't shown us any get the points. They might have their own Blade Brand or Skewer the Critics that they're using to finish off or Scavenger. So either way we block here, they'll be able to finish off Scavenger, and I don't think we can take it. So I think we'll block the Roustabout. Also, if they have the card to get creatures back from their graveyard, I would rather make them return Roustabout than Blade Juggler. So we'll see if it's Dead Revels or Skewer. So light up the stage. Ooh, wow. Scorch Mark off the top. That's pretty good. And a Guild Mage. Alright, we could still be in a bit of trouble here. But deck instead. Yeah, opponent's got a very solid looking Rakdos deck. So probably gotta go with Messenger plus Fiend here. Although Scorch Mark lines up a bit better against Fiend than it does our Thrall. Now they also have a Guild Mage they can start activating to make us discard, which is not where we want to be. I think I'm going Thrall here. But I'm not entirely sure if it's correct. Yeah, keeping Inheritance now doesn't look great. I think we'll block Guild Mage. Take 5. Scorch Mark. Alright, that's fine. Opponents drawing straight fire. We do have Inheritance coming down pretty soon to gain us a bit of life back. But the board might not be very stable, and it's going to take a while before this Gutterbones is going to be able to block. Crocodile would actually be a decent top deck here. But the problem is we need the inheritance to offset the life we lose to the guild mage. Or we could just bedeck and kill the guild mage. And do we bedeck the roustabout or the guild mage? Probably the guild mage. And then we can block juggler and roustabout, fall to 1. And then face a plague white at 1 life with a spirit token in play, and then we get to play inheritance. Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll go for it. But if they have any action left, we're dead. Attack with everyone. So, block, block. Another blade juggler. Wow, triple blade juggler. Another plague white. Yeah, we're definitely not beating this. Alright, well, opponent's got a pretty impressive looking Rakdos deck. Multiple skewers, light up the stage, Carnival Carnage, Scorch Mark, a lot of 2-drops, triple blade juggler. Alright, don't think we want to show them any additional cards here. So the way we would have won this game was to set up a bigger Cry of the Carnarium. That's probably one of the few ways we have to actually win the initiative back. But at the time when we cast a Cry, I think we were kind of forced to. Or relatively happy with our sideboarding. Yeah, it's pretty important that we don't let them enable Spectacle for Blade Juggler on turn 3 since they have so many of them. They just happen to have another 3-drop this time. Yeah, probably want Orator back. Veteran's also not amazing, just trades for Blade Juggler. Yeah, Inheritance just doesn't look great here. Yeah, we're pretty light on ways to actually close out the game now. We'll just have to rely on recurring Gutter Bones. Like, Inheritance is going to be a bit better now that we're on the play, but our opponent has so many creatures that the Inheritance is never going to outrace them. Alright, double Gutter Bones, Judgment is not bad. Probably should have considered going up to 17 lands as well. Dead Revel's of course not the best alongside Gutter Bones, but we've got plenty of other creatures we could draw. 10th Street Dodger. They're gonna keep it back. So do we attack and offer the trade, or do we just stay back? And we're probably playing Hero this turn. Yeah, it's not straightforward here whether or not we should be attacking. I think we will attack. Opponent insta-blocks. We don't have double black, so we can't return Gutter Bones and replay it, or play the second one. Demise. Yeah, if we attack with Hero, opponent probably blocks, unless they badly want to enable Spectacle. And if they do have Dead Revels for Reveler, exiling it for good is not bad. We're not necessarily the control role when we're on the play, and we start with Gutter Bones, we could be the aggressor. It definitely varies, and we're probably going to have to switch roles a couple of times. The problem is, if we attack with Hero, I think our opponent's going to block. Otherwise, we could of course make the play where we Gutter Bones plus Judgments, which plays around them, enabling Spectacle. But since we suspect that our opponent's going to block, I don't think that works out. So now we'll Gutter Bones again. So they could easily have some Blade Juggler stuck in hand. Well, that's one way to enable Spectacle. So definitely have to try and apply as much pressure as we can. Sadly, our hand is kind of awkward. And now they're gonna start pulling ahead with Blade Jugglers. Light up the stage, 2 lands. And there's a Juggler. Alright, Swamp was not bad. So we can cast Bedeck if we want to. We're probably more interested in playing the 2 1-drops here. Opponent's probably gonna take it, and then Footlight Fiend can trade for Juggler. Or we can Summary Judgment it, which would also be fine. Cult Guildmage. Good target for Bedeck. Yeah, we probably want to just Judgment the Juggler if they attack with it, but they're gonna stay back. Opponent takes it. Kill this before they get to untap. And I guess we keep land in hand since they showed us Carnival Carnage. But we could definitely get into a spot where we want to Dead Revels and want more mana in play to be able to play whatever we get back. Here we're just gonna Judgment. Alright. Opponent does nothing. Alright, not sure what their hand is. But we're attacking. There's a hero we can return, but I don't think it's worth it to go for it quite yet. Alright, well, let's see if the Gutter Bones can get there. Opponent can of course sack the Inheritance at any point. Maybe should have played a land here, since we can still discard 2/2 Carnage. Alright, let's get in there. Probably forced to sacrifice Inheritance. That's a good thing. Alright. Wow, alright, so our opponent flooded out pretty badly in this game apparently. So we got pretty lucky to walk away with a win. But they definitely showed us in game 2 that their deck is pretty stacked. So, alright, wanna know, I'll take it. Hand looks good. Ooh, hero's looking good. Got 3 multicolor spells in hand. Don't have a ton of them, so... And if our opponent's removal is something like Lawmage's Binding, we still get to keep triggering it. So I think I'm into Pontiff, and then we still have the mana up to activate the Pontiff if we want to. I think that beats Grudian. So opponent on Asper. We've got a Grotesque Demise for a potential 5-drop they play. Or Vampire. I guess we can Bedeck the Vampire. It's pretty efficient use. And we get to add another token to the board. Could also Bellhaunt, but then we don't get to attack. Or we can attack with just a Pontiff and they probably take 2. I think I like Bedeck. Keep up the pressure. Oligarch, good target for Demise as well. Inheritance is looking good, so we could also just attack with everyone and then Inheritance. The upside of Demise is that it keeps up the Pontiff's ability, not that it matters too much against blue-white, but they seem to be pretty heavy to black as well, so maybe they're splashing blue instead. Yeah, we could play Bellhaunt, attack with everyone. They're probably not splashing a Quench, that would be a little strange. Hitting them for 6, I think, is good enough here when we have Inheritance. I think we just want to get in damage here. We're on the Inheritance plan. Just want to get them low and then finish them off with Inheritance. Plague White is fine. Alright, so we've got some interesting options. We can, of course, Bellhaunt before attacking, attack with everyone. Can attack with everyone, play Inheritance. Can attack with everyone and Blade Juggler. I think I'm into Bellhaunt, attack with everyone. And they can choose which creature to trade with. They do discard Thrall, so they're just missing a 4th land drop. So we are shields down on the Pontiff ability, but they decide to trade for Hero. As it turns out, we got all the value already. Maybe a combat trick here as well, or a judgment. Alright, so it looks like I have a warrant instead. It's actually not too bad. So they might just be dead here, otherwise we've got Inheritance to get the job done. Alright, so opponents, black-white, splashing blue for Warrant Warden at the very least. So how do we want to sideboard? This could be a matchup for Drill Bit. Our opponent's deck seemed a bit on the slower side. Don't think we want Scavenger. Carrion Imp can be okay against an opposing Dead Revels, lines up pretty awkwardly against an opposing Thrall. Don't know if we need to go all the way up to 6 mana for Consign. So I think the only consideration is probably Drill Bit. Not sure what we're supposed to take out for it. And we're gonna be on the draw, so we're less likely to enable Spectacle on Drill Bit. I could see bringing it in for game 3 perhaps. It's gonna be a bit better there. On the draw it could be too slow. Fiend plus Pontiff is pretty good. I do agree that Judgment looks better as a Drill Bit in this particular circumstance. Think we'll play the Plague White, can probably still attack into whatever they have on 3 here. And I would rather play Pontiff when we can keep up 1 mana for it. Alright, there's Oligarch. Plague White can attack into it just fine. Fiend would trade and we don't get to kill the Spirit token from Afterlife. Alright, sure. Alright, they will trade. Hey, thanks for the 100 bits there, Fressicus, appreciate it. Yeah, it's possible we should have just capped the Fiend on defense, but then they're attacking us and we're faced with kind of the same decision. Alright, they have Inheritance as well. And we're missing our land drops here, which isn't ideal. I think we might actually want to Judgment a token. Feels kind of bad, but we're kind of pinched on mana here. We won't have the time to deploy them all. Sparmangler. So if we attack with a Pontiff, opponent probably blocks, and then we have to sack the white, and we don't even get to deal damage this turn. So I guess just attacking with Plague White is acceptable. They'll probably take it and then we can Judgment the Thrall. The problem is when the ability from Footlight Fiend goes on the stack, we need to select the targets. And at that point, the token isn't there yet, so we can't select it as a target. Even though the ability from Footlight Fiend might resolve after the Afterlife token resolves, we still need to select the target as the ability goes on the stack. So it doesn't actually matter that it's active, non-active. Even if it happened in our turn and the spirits would resolve first before the 1 damage, we still need to assign the 1 damage from Footlight Fiend at the moment the trigger goes on the stack. So there's just no way, regardless of whose turn it is, to kill an Afterlife token with the Fiend's ability. Alright, more Thralls. Not what we wanted to see. Hero joins us a little bit late. I guess we're okay trading white for Thrall here, and I think I'm willing to attack with Pontiff as well. They might also just take it. Yeah. Since they are winning the race. Maybe regretting using the Judgment on the Spirit token now, but I think it was justifiable. Alright, there's a 3rd land. So we get to attack. Opponent's gonna sack Locket end of turn, have a fresh set of cards to work with. We could use Spire Mangler to ambush the Troll, which is reasonable. Don't think we're that revolving since there's only 1 creature in the graveyard. So yeah, I think Mangler beats Grudian here. So we'll attack. Opponent's taking 6, falling to 7. They're gonna go back up to 8. Hopefully we can trade the Spire Mangler for Thrall. And then we'll be at a pretty even life total. And hopefully we'll be slightly ahead on board. But if our opponent drew anything relevant here, we might be in trouble. It's pretty impressive. And an Oligarch, yeah, we're not beating this. Blade Juggler is nice and all, but it's not gonna save us here. So yeah, they can just take it, attack us with the Thrall, and then sack Inheritance, and we're dead. And I don't think there's anything we can do to stop that. But I guess we can get a bit more info. So that's fine, we'll let the trade happen. Do we want to show them any additional cards? I don't think so. Alright. So lots of Oligarchs, lots of Thralls. The Summary Judgment looks good against Grasping Thrall, doesn't look great against Oligarch. Any changes to sideboarding? I think Drill Bit is probably coming in, lines up pretty well against all their Grasping Thralls if we can take them away. Bladebrand seems kind of mediocre, can help us trade for a Thrall, but unless it's a Gutterbones gaining Death Touch or a Footlight Fiend, we're not too happy about it. So I think Bladebrand can come out. Could bring in Veteran to block the Oligarchs, or maybe a Carrion Imp, but it doesn't line up well against the Thrall. Grudian's also not too impressive. They just played 1,000,000 Oligarchs and Thralls, so Grudian doesn't actually line up all that well. So that might be better off as a Veteran, since it can actually attack and block into Oligarchs. So I think we'll submit this. Alright, so this hand's very good if we can enable Spectacle and draw a 3rd land. Don't think we can mulligan. Got a Demise to exile Oligarch as well. There's our third land. And even if they play Oligarch on 2, we can still attack into it and ping them for 1 to enable Spectacles, so... Plague White, that's fine. Still happily attack into it. Demise the Juggler, that's fine. We'll take 2. Land is pretty nice as well. Now we can Gutter Bones plus Blade Juggler. Definitely prefer developing our board with creatures over playing Inheritance right now. Alright, so we've got a nice little board presence and our hand is not bad. But if our opponent plays 3 Thralls, then we could be in a bit of trouble. Watchdog's actually somewhat annoying. Opponent's stuck on 3 lands, so I don't necessarily want to spend resources on Drill Bit when they probably have a pretty stacked hand and multiple good cards we would have to take away. So it's either Griffin or Inheritance here, but the question is, can we make any good attacks? The thing is, our opponent doesn't have as many good blocks if they don't have the mana for Watchdog, and they're gonna have to tap out at some point. So I think I would rather attack once they're tapped out. So I think I'm gonna play the Griffin for now, in the hopes that it can get in a bit more damage than Inheritance. Don't need more lands. Yeah, I don't think we attack. Even though attacking with Footlight Fiend would not be the worst. Alright, Carrion Imp as a 2/3. So we can demise the Imp, and then we can open up some decent attacks. And probably still Drill Bit. Alternatively, we can trade Griffin for Imp, but I kind of want to get rid of it. Plus, Griffin can eventually trade for a Thrall. So if we demise the Imp, Griffin can attack for sure. Juggler can still trade for Plague White, so it's not ideal. I'm happy to trade Fiend for Plague White essentially, since that opens up an attack with Blade Juggler. And now we'll Drill Bit. And probably see a hand full of Grasping Thralls. Alright, so Dead Revels, Grasping Thrall, Warrant Warden. So how many cards do they have in the graveyard? They've got Plague White and Demise. So they need a single white source to play a 4/4 Vigilance Flyer, which is going to be pretty tough for us to beat. So probably have to take that. But it's not looking great if they hit their land drops. Plus, this is also the most flexible card since they still can cast the Warrant side. And we don't put an additional creature in the graveyard for their Dead Revels. Alright, they did hit a land, but it's a tapped one, so opponent has the option of casting Dead Revels, returning a single creature. They decide not to. So we gotta press our advantage while we can. So we can attack with Juggler Griffin. And then we could Bellhaunt, which doesn't look bad. Opponent's probably gonna Thrall us next turn. But then the Bellhaunt can still attack into it reasonably well. Would like to get the Inheritance down, but I think the Bellhaunt's slightly better now when the opponent's holding all good cards. And we even get to play Gutter Bones as well. Opponent does discard Thrall, so I think that's fine. A little bit surprised that they did, but they're going for the longer game with Dead Revels returning Thrall, which is a bit questionable. Dead Revels returning 2 creatures, but yeah, they're super far behind now. And Inheritance should be enough to get the job done. In fact, they're just dead on board. So yeah, the discarding Thrall part seems a little bit questionable. Sweet. Alright. So we're 2-0. Let's keep it up. Alright, this is a pretty land-heavy draw. 5 lands is definitely more than we need. Do have 2 removal spells, but we have no way of pressuring the opponent. So this hand needs to draw a lot of powerful cards that can make up for the fact that we're drawing all these lands. And we don't have a ton of cards that kind of win the game by themselves. We have more kind of small creatures with a bit of synergy between them. It's not like we have a deck with 6 Grasping Thralls that we're hoping to draw into. So this is probably a mulligan. Well, this is a keep and hope to draw into a black land soon here. Sadly, don't get to play Gutterbones on one. But this is also the reason why we're playing more swamps than plains in our deck, so we can cast our Gutterbones on turn 1 more often than not. Another Rakdos deck. Triple plains is painful. And our opponent's discarding to hand size, wow. Well, sadly we can't punish them for it. If we had a turn 1 Gutterbones, this game would be pretty much over. I'll take hero. They might be holding some removal spells, which explains why they capped. Alright, Bladebrand to draw a card, fair enough. And they weren't able to cast it before because it does require a target. Alright, so we will see a 3-drop now. Rubble Slinger, not the 3-drop I expected necessarily. Alright, well. Our opponent discarding to hand size made up for the fact that we are kind of stuck on one color. Demise the hero. Double demise is painful. Maybe one day we'll be able to cast as Bellhaunt. So it is nice to get the inheritance down as soon as possible. And I guess we're only taking 2 from the Slinger. It's not unreasonable to play the inheritance here, but it's also possible our opponent's holding a bunch of Blade Jugglers. And then we might be better off playing Grudian to block the Rubble Slinger, so they don't get to enable Spectacle. There's also the argument of mana efficiency. But if we draw Swamp, we can go Inheritance plus Gutterbones, or we might just play Bellhaunt. So I think we'll play the Grudian for now. Alright, Vampire, sure. Still happy to trade, I think. Since Slinger also blocks our Mangler in the future. Alright, we did draw second black, so I guess now Grasping Thrall looks good. Blocks the Vampire, if they don't have anything. I think that's a bit better than Inheritance plus Gutterbones. And then we might be able to use Spire Mangler to get in for 2 more damage. With the Thrall, we'll see. It gets interesting if our opponent attacks us with the Vampire. Alright, so opponent could have all sorts of combo tricks or burn spells. What happens next turn? Next turn we can play Bellhaunt, which blocks the Vampire pretty well. I think we take it. It's maybe a bit cowardly, but when we have a Bellhaunt coming up as a good blocker for Vampire, I don't really want to give up the Thrall, which is a pretty good source of damage. There's a Blade Juggler, hopefully they don't also have Skewer the Critics here. Alright, Gutterbones. So they haven't had to show us any combo trick that turn, but that's okay. So now we can attack with Thrall, go Gutterbones plus Bellhaunt. Guess we'll attack first. Play Bellhaunt before we play Gutterbones. Give them a bit less information to work with. And their hands probably all spells, since they missed land drops earlier in the game. Discards a Grudian. Alright. So, if the Bellhound can stop their attacks, and we can kinda take over the game with Thrall and Inheritance, we'll be in a good spot, but presumably they still have the trick from last turn when they attacked with the Vampire. So they're not attacking with the Vampire itself, which is interesting. Probably want to keep it back to block the Gutterbones. So now do we block Gutterbones or Juggler? The reason to block Gutterbones over Juggler is if we specifically want to play around a 1 damage effect or a +1 first strike trick, which if they combine it with Blade Juggler can still take out the Bellhound, but blocking Gutterbones does not, loses the Bellhound. Of course they can get back Gutterbones, but it does cost them quite a bit of mana. I think we will block the Gutterbones. I think there's enough reason to block the 2-powered creature over the 3-powered one. Vampire plus Gutterbones is a pretty sweet combo, but I suspect their opponents are more interested in deploying their hand rather than return Gutterbones this turn. As it turns out, they had a Firewheeler, which is pretty excellent here. Kills our Bellhound. So that's the card they probably had when they attacked with Vampire into Thrall. And now we regret blocking Gutterbones over Juggler, because the 2 damage would have killed our Bellhound either way. And now they have a Juggler in play and still a Gutterbones in hand. Dead Revels, on the other hand, was a pretty excellent draw. So we can attack Dead Revels and then play another Bellhound here. Opponent probably discards Gutterbones, but having the 3/4 blocker in play is still pretty valuable. So Gutterbones can block Blade Juggler, Bellhound can trade for Firewheeler. Carnage, it's pretty good. I think we want to keep the Inheritance. So what's our opponent's play this turn? They might attack with the Firewheeler, they might not. And if they do, we're probably forced to trade. Opponent's going to drain us for 1 with the Vampire. Then we can attack them with the Thrall. Play Inheritance. Opponent's going to fall to 11. Gutterbones can hopefully trade for Juggler. Vampire's going to start attacking us for 2. And then we gotta hope that Thrall and Inheritance can outrace them. Whereas Mangler can get us in for 2 extra damage with Thrall and then put another 2-powered creature in play. But I think we need the life gain from Inheritance. They also get to return Gutterbones thanks to the Vindictive Vampire. Instead they have a Trumpeter. It's pretty good, but so is Pontiff. Alright, so this is going to be a close one. So we'll see what they do. Pretty even game here, so could go either way. Trumpeter gets in there. Don't think we block. They can pump it, hit us for 3. And then replay Gutterbones. Ooh, they probably tapped their mana wrong there. Yeah, the auto-tapper got our opponent pretty good. I think we just attack with the Thrall. And then I guess we're fine playing out our land. And yeah, if they don't have removal for the Thrall, they would be dead to the attack and the Inheritance activation next turn. So we don't really want to block here, otherwise the Vampire will gain them life. And then we might not have lethal. But we might be forced to. If we don't block, our opponent can pump Trumpeter once. So that's 8 damage. So technically, if they don't have any burn spells or other pump spells, we could take it and survive. I guess if we block like this, sack Gutterbones to Pontiff, they can pump Trumpeter, hit us for 5, and even if they have a 3 damage burn spell, we would go to 1. And because the Vampire only triggers when their creature dies, it doesn't trigger off of the Gutterbones dying. Yeah, we could block the Pontiff on the Vampire, but then the Vampire dies. Oh no, it's another creature, never mind. Yeah. We're fine to block here as well then. Yeah, I thought this also triggered itself, but it's not a Blood Artist, as it turns out. So we're gonna take 3. And let's see if they're dead. Alright, that was a close one. Not sure how that would have gone if our opponent managed to play Gutterbones last turn. Alright, so how do we want to sideboard? Also pretty good against their Gutterbones, so I think Carrion Imp is coming in. I don't think we want Cry. They showed us a lot of stuff that doesn't die to it, like the Firewheeler and the Vindictive Vampire. So I'm not the biggest fan of Cry. Do we want Scavenger? We're already bringing in Carrion Imp, so the 4-drops are pretty stacked. Bladebrand could be cuttable. Grudian seems okay since it's... I mean, I guess it lines up pretty awkwardly against Firewheeler if we played first. So maybe Grudian can go. Could also see bringing in the Crocodile as just a good blocker on the ground. But it does die to their Grotesque Demise, so that makes it pretty awkward. Yeah, we did see Grotesque Demise. So I think we'll just try this. Alright, don't think we can keep this. I'll probably have to mulligan this one as well. Don't have any black mana. I mean, I guess if we scry into a swamp, but then we're still not casting Blade Juggler anytime soon, so this end's just glacially slow. Yeah, this is better. And I guess we'll keep a Judgment. So this end is just all removal plus inheritance. I think we'll play Pontiff here. Opponent's gonna cycle Bladebrand again. Fireblade Artists. We'll take 2 and then we can probably Judgment it. And I guess we'll kill it right now. Ouch. Alright, well, we're 1 swamp away from returning the favor. Ouch. Well, that was pretty brutal. I have to imagine they take the Bellhound here. Even though it's the one that we're least likely to cast. And we will demise the Juggler here. Alright, so we're not looking great here. Mulligan to 5 and a Drill Bit later. Messenger doesn't block Firewheeler. And I think we value gaining 1 life more than dealing an extra point of damage. So we'll play Inheritance. The upside of playing Messenger is that if we do draw another creature, we can maybe double block the Firewheeler. Alright, I'm just gonna empty my hand. Consign to the pit. Yeah, probably gonna have to chum block the Firewheeler here. What happens if we take 6? Fall to 1, go up to 2. Then even if we draw a creature to double block Firewheeler with Spirit and whenever we draw, we're taking a lethal from Plague White. So step 1, find an answer to Firewheeler. That'll do it. Alright, Plague White doesn't block Plague White, but we're not dead yet. step 2 is more of a question mark. Alright, Plague White puts us to 1. Griffin, I guess it at least trades for the Plague White. Yeah, I mean, if we can survive, Thrall's a great top deck. Let's see if we can survive. Roustabout, sure. Vampire. What happens if we take 3, fall to 2? We're not dealing lethal to our opponents, but let's say we do top deck a land. We could attack for 3, put them to 7. We wouldn't take lethal from Vampire and Roustabout, and then we would have lethal with the Thrall the turn after. Whereas if we block, it's kind of a pretty big question mark whether or not we can get there. So yeah, I think it's actually pretty close here whether or not we should block or not. I think taking 3, falling to 2, attacking, hoping to draw land to sack Inheritance is pretty reasonable. And we've got a lot of lands in our deck, of course, that we can draw. Whereas if we block and trade, then we still have to deal with the Vampire. Yeah, I think we take it. Alright, land was what we needed here. So we'll attack. Alright, let's see if they kill us or if we kill them. Wow, alright. There we go. Not bad, not bad. It looked pretty grim there for a second. 3-0, let's keep it up. On the draw, our hand's pretty slow, but we can cast all our spells. Our curve is pretty low, so there's a lot of cheap cards we can draw into. Cavalcade of Calamity, that's pretty terrifying to see on the other side. An effective Cavalcade deck is going to be pretty strong, but it is not the easiest build around card. Alright, there's a first Goblin Gathering, so we might be in for a treat here. I think we're happy if we can trade Grudian for 2 tokens, and we'll have blockers back to block the tokens. So I think we do attack. Opponent takes it. And I think we might want to play Juggler over Griffin. Although Griffin's a bit more mana efficient. We're probably playing Thrall next turn. Yeah, this one's close. I think I'm going Griffin here. And Dead Revels. Don't think we want that. Alright, let's see. Maybe a Dagger Caster to finish off the Griffin. Nope, Scavenger. That's fine. So we've got Bladebrand to trade for it eventually. Or we can keep Grudian back. Judgment can also kill it when it's tapped. So I think we're fine to be somewhat aggressive given our hand. And then just play a Thrall. Cavalcade is not looking too impressive right now, but that might change. Alright, drill bit, kind of a bummer. Takes away inheritance, but we still have judgment to answer the scavenger, so not too concerned. So I think we'll attack first, judgment, juggler, go from there. Alright, so this game's looking good. Alright, it's looking a bit less good now. Didn't really consider Cry. I was thinking our opponent's unable to cast a Kaya's Wrath. But they could cast a Cry of the Carnarium, so it's definitely possible we shouldn't have played the last creature there. So they've got a pretty strange looking deck. Goblin Gatherings with Scavengers, Cavalcades, and then Cry of the Carnarium in the deck playing Cavalcade is kind of a nombo. But it could catch some people off guard, I suppose. I guess our smaller creatures are in danger of getting swept away by Cry. Yeah, Cry of the Carnarium makes sideboarding pretty tough, since there's a lot of things to keep in mind. For example, I could see Veteran being better than Grudian. Like, we don't want to over-sideboard and take out all the stuff that dies to Cry, because then we don't have a deck anymore. Gutterbone's pretty bad against Cry as well, but especially the expensive cards that die to Cry are questionable. Like Griffin, for example, could be just worse than the 4-mana flyer here that doesn't die to Cry. So just kind of a small change. Don't think we want Trumpeter since we don't have the red mana for it. Don't want a 1/3 Menace, even though it does line up well against tokens and Cry. It's just not impactful enough. Yeah, maybe Drill Bit's okay. Maybe over one of our Gutterbones. Alright. Sure, we'll keep. Yeah, I could see bringing in the Drill Bit just because our deck is kind of weird, so knowing what they're working with can be pretty valuable as well. And of course, if we can take a Cry of the Carnarium, that can be pretty impactful. Enforcer's a good one, but we can exile it with Demise if we want to. We'll take it. Enforcer doesn't block Plague White, so it makes sense for them to attack. Pontiff isn't bad. Let's get in for 2. Looks like they have an answer. Carnival, sure. Not sure why they waited. Could have had a pump spell, I suppose. So I think we'll just play a Pontiff for now. And then they might keep back Enforcer, and then we can decide whether or not we want to demise it or just play Imp and take to the skies. So we'll start by attacking, and then play Carrion Imp. Exiling our own Plague White. Bit of a nombo with our Dead Revels, but that's okay. Could also play Veteran, but then doesn't line up all that well against Enforcer. And I think we value the 2 life more than the creature in the graveyard. Yeah, it is a May ability, but I think I do want to gain 2 life. Alright, so we'll take 1 to 18. Opponent seems to be stuck on 3. And then next turn we could go Veteran plus Judgment. Although I don't really want to Judgment the Enforcer. So I think we just attack here. We could also play Veteran pre-combat in case our opponent was somehow sandbagging their own Summary Judgment, so we can sacrifice Veteran to the Pontiff if we wanted to. But they're more likely to want to kill the Imp anyway. And we might be better off just playing Inheritance this turn. Our opponent could have sideboarded some Disenchants for Inheritance, since they did get to see it in the previous game and take it away with Drill Bit. So I wouldn't be shocked to see an Exposed to Daylight on Inheritance, but I don't know if they're supposed to bring it in after only seeing the one enchantment. They have Judgment for the imp anyway, so that's fine. No need to sack anything. So yeah, I think I prefer playing Inheritance here. Get that down before they can drill bit it away. And yeah, there's the expose, so opponent did bring in a disenchant. So that's kind of a bummer, but oh well. They were gonna get it at some point, unless we draw a drill bit before deploying the Inheritance, I suppose. So now we'll play Veteran, and then next turn we can probably demise the Enforcer, so we can start getting in. Your opponent played a lot of red mana the previous game, so they might be missing red, which also explains why they're not doing anything. I think we still demise, even though attacking and then playing Juggler is tempting. Let's just exile this and get in for 4. Opponent's at 10, still missing red mana presumably. Alright, let's get in there. We do have to keep Cry of the Carnarium in mind, but Veteran still survives it. I think we're fine to add a Juggler to the board there. Can flash in a Mangler end of turn and we'll still have 4 power post Cry. Alright, end of turn we'll flash it in. And attack for hopefully lethal. Alright. So not the most interesting game, opponent missing the red mana there, but yeah, there's a risk to playing 3 colors. Sweet, so we're 4-0, not bad. We'll be on the play. Alright, I think we've got a keeper, sadly no swamp on turn 1 for Gutterbones, but still a totally reasonable hand. With some early pressure, some removal, and then a finisher in Inheritance. We will play the Plague White here to be more mana efficient. And ideally we draw another 2-drop creature so we can go Gutterbones plus another creature, otherwise it's Gutterbones plus Judgment. Opponent on blue-white. Could be a Slimebind here, we'll find out. Alright, opponent maybe considering duelists, but they can't kill the Plague White, they can just prevent 2 damage. And Gutterbones also plays around Quench nicely here. Opponent takes it. We'll play Gutterbones. And we've got a nice little board presence going. Spirit's gonna prevent us from attacking, sadly. Hopefully we draw land so we can play a 4-drop instead. That's an awkward draw. Alright, so we're probably gonna demise a Spirit. No real reason to do it now, other than to play around a pump spell. But by keeping it in hand, we have a bit more flexibility in case they play a creature we want to kill instead of the Spirit. So I think we'll wait. Could of course run into a counterspell if we wait as well, but I don't think we're too upset if we trade a counterspell for a demise here. Land 4. So our opponent's gotta have a lot of decisions here. And does attack with the Spirits. I don't hate just taking it and then demising whatever creature they follow up with. Could also of course Summary Judgment, but I think we're more interested in being able to keep attacking. Sky Tether makes it a bit more difficult. I guess now we could just Summary Judgment. The upside of Demise is that it can exile something like a Knight Arbiter at 5 mana out of the Azorius deck, whereas Judgment can't kill it because it has Vigilance. So I think I'm okay with Judgment right now. And if they want to counter this, that's acceptable. And then we've got an attack into play Blade Juggler. Opponent could have a Fairy Duelist that they didn't play before to ambush the Gutterbones, which would be unfortunate. We could always demise the Duelist, which isn't something we really want to do. But I don't think we really have a choice but to attack. But this does kind of smell like a Fairy Duelist, perhaps. Alright, never mind. Maybe a counterspell for the Juggler. Thought Collapse. Essence Capture instead. Alright, at least they didn't get value from the +1/+1 counter. Senate Griffin we can demise as well, or we can attack into it with Gutterbones, and they probably take it. And a land. So I think we'll attack, and then the question is, do we play our own Griffin? Do we play Blade Juggler? Guess we'll start by attacking, since that's not going to change. I think we want to play the Plains and then play Blade Juggler, keeping up black mana in case we draw another Gutterbones. We do have one Guildgate left in our deck, which would punish us for playing the Plains first. But it's kind of a toss-up between Gutterbones and Guildgate, and the upside of being able to play Gutterbones here is pretty high. Alright, drew another Plains. And I think the upside of playing Jugglers may be a bit higher than playing the Griffin at the moment, just because the Scry one's also a bit less valuable when we're still in a spot where both lands and spells are fine draws. But now we know for sure that we can bottom any land we see. Opponent played the Lockets, got 3 mana, deciding what to do. Alright, let's get in there. There's a Slimebind, it's fine. I don't hate resolving the Inheritance while we can. Or we could play Griffin. But against the current board, Inheritance is pretty good. And I think resolving it is going to be pretty key. So even though our opponent's still at 12, I think I'm okay with Inheritance, also because we have a removal spell for the Griffin anyway to relieve any pressure, and if our opponent's a very controlling deck with a bunch of counterspells, Inheritance can single-handedly win us a game. Whereas they might easily have an answer for Griffin and counter the Inheritance, and we could be in trouble then. Dead Revels. We've got one Juggler in the graveyard. Start by attacking. Opponent might sacrifice the Azorius Locket end of turn. Takes 2 down to 9. So I guess a play here is Griffin. If they counter it, we can Dead Revels 2 creatures back. I mean, I guess we'll still play the land to play around Quench, but I wouldn't be upset if they countered this with a Quench, to be honest. Alright, opponent sacking the Locket here. Don't need Guildgates. We could Dead Revels just to return the Blade Juggler, which is not unreasonable, but we can still do that next turn. So I think we wait, since we have the mana to do both. Of course, if we Dead Revels now, we would have the mana to demise plus Blade Juggler, but I don't think we're in a spot where we're desperately needing to demise the opponent's Griffin. They're probably going to have to leave it back on defense now anyway. Shieldbringer's pretty good, so now they can potentially still attack us. Alright, so now we get punished a little bit for not Dead Revelsing last turn, since I think I would have been happy to demise plus Blade Juggler after getting rid of the Chillbringer. But our opponent's almost dead here. Can demise the Chillbringer. Attack them for 2. And they're close to that to the Inheritance. So now do we Dead Revels? I guess we do. 8 mana. It's gonna be a Windstorm Drake, so they've got a flying theme going. Attacks us for 4. They'll need something else here. Can attack with both, and then they're dead to a sacrificed inheritance. What if they do have another Slimebind, for example? We attack with both, they get to block Gutterbones, shrink down Griffin. Then we don't have lethal, and they're threatening lethal on the way back, but we can still survive by sacking the inheritance. But I think we still gotta go for it here. They could Law Mage's Binding before attacking, but then we know about it. Alright, looks like they've got something. And it is indeed Law Mage's Binding. Well, now we know not to attack. So yeah, had we cast that Dead Revels when we had the 2 spare mana a few turns ago, we would have had an extra Blade Juggler in play by now, and things would have looked quite a bit better. So that decision did end up being quite relevant. So now we don't have a good attack with Gutterbones, and we're probably forced to sacrifice the inheritance, since I don't think we want to play Blade Juggler here, otherwise we're dead. But then again, if we sack inheritance and our opponent doesn't have a blocker for Gutterbones, they would also be dead on the way back. So we'll see. Need them to brick off here. We're gonna be 1 point short. So we definitely had the tools to potentially win this game. And yeah, there's a Knight Arbiter. But deck doesn't save us. I mean, I guess we'll play it and see. Yeah, if we could play Bedazzle, we could finish them off with the 2 damage, but I think it was totally fine not to include a red mana in our mana base. Yeah, I think that decision of not casting the Dead Revels, getting back a single Blade Juggler, cost us the game. Opponent at 1. And yeah, we're not going to be able to get there. The problem with Rakdos Guildgate is just that it's a tap land in a deck that's trying to curve out. So I don't think we want it, despite Bedazzle. Alright, GG's. The Chillbringer was definitely pretty key to this game, tapping down our Griffin. Alright, so against the blue-white flyers, how do we want to sideboard? Any big ground creature is pretty useless since they're attacking us in the air. Carrion Imp could be okay. I think Drill Bit is useful since they've got some expensive cards in there. What don't we like? Footlight Fiend seems pretty bad. Grudian can at least keep attacking into most of their stuff. All the removal seems decent. Judgment, of course, can deal with the Knight Arbiter, but we'll have to save our auto removal spells for the Arbiter. I think we've got a decent shot this game. So we'll bring in Drill Bit. I'm not sure about the Imp. Bladebrand still looks reasonable. Can let us attack into bigger creatures. Dead Revels is a little bit awkward since our opponent has so much enchantment removal that doesn't actually kill our creatures. Could consider Consign to the Pit instead. But it is 6 mana in a 16 land deck, which is a little bit sketchy. But it might be worth it. 1 Consign over maybe a Dead Revels. Our creatures might trade and then Dead Revels is good, but in the games where they just Law Mage is binding some of our stuff and then attack us with flyers, Dead Revels is kind of a dead card. Yeah, we could cut Bladebrand for an extra land, I suppose. We'll be on the play, hand looks decent. We'll lead with Plague White. And then next turn we can Pontiff plus Drill Bit. Hopefully. We'll definitely Drill Bit first, in case of an Essence Capture. There's Essence Capture. They do have the Plains, but they wanted to keep up Essence Capture instead. Ministrant is also pretty annoying. So their hand is pretty stacked. Bedak answers Senate Griffin, so that's not a problem. Ministrant we can keep attacking into with our Plague White, but it is quite good against our Pontiff. They've got Binding and Sky Tether to answer our flyers, so this is not going to be an easy game. They pretty much have all our stuff covered at the moment with their hand. Could see taking Essence Capture so we can resolve Pontiff, but Pontiff doesn't really attack into Ministrant all that well. Could take the Binding as kind of the more versatile removal spell. I think I'm still taking the Essence Capture just so we don't make them spend their mana this turn. Weird. They played Island there. Seems questionable. Maybe a misclick. Since we have perfect information, there's no reason for them to play the Island there. Alright, I'll take it. Well, now taking the counterspell definitely looks good. Alright, Sky Tether the Pontiff, that's fine. They've got still 3 mana to work with, maybe they drew something else. Like a counterspell. Either way we're attacking. Opponent takes 4. Don't get me wrong, we're still in trouble here. Our opponent's hand is pretty stacked. But we did get quite a bit of free damage in. Hopefully they play Griffin so we can Bedak. Alright, it's fine. They didn't use their mana very efficiently. They might have been better off using Binding last turn and this turn go Griffin plus Sky Tether. Also playing the Griffin in hopes of blocking is a much worse play in the face of removal spell on our side. So when you're in the opponent's shoes, you should think about kind of the worst case scenario. What if the opponent has removal? How do I best play around it? And use maybe your premium removal spells instead of trying to block with your creatures just to kind of stem the bleeding a bit faster. Because you can have all the best cards in the world in your hand, but if you're dead, then it doesn't matter that you have them. So they're down to 6. They might double spell here. Insights. Gains them 2. Do they find a 2-drop? They don't. Could have a Slimebind in hand, I suppose. If they don't, they're in trouble. Looks like they do. Ooh, Fairy Duelist instead, so that gets to eat our Gutter Bones. But we get to return it and replay it, so it's not all that bad. They could also chump block if they wanted to. Nope, they're gonna eat the Gutter Bones. I think that's a fine outcome, given that we don't have anything else to do with our mana this turn. Sky Tether does not remove the ability on the Pontiff, so we can still sack stuff if we want to. For example, if they use Lawmage's Binding on the Syndicate Messenger, we can still sacrifice it to get a Spirit Token. So this is the point in the game where we just want to draw Inheritance. We've got 2 of them. They're gonna Binding the Plague White. So this kind of implies they've got another answer for the Messenger, or they're planning to triple block it with Duelist and the 2 Spirit Tokens from Ministrant at some point. Alright, Blade Juggler was a good draw. I think we still attack with both. Another Duelist, fair enough. Shrink Messenger, trade for Gutter Bones, so we don't get to enable Spectacle for Blade Juggler, sadly, but can just play it for 5 mana. And do we keep up white mana or black mana? Probably split the difference since we have a Plains in hand. Judgments. Alright. Another Sphinx's Insight's pretty good here. And I still get to play Ministrant that blocks the Juggler. So I think we are slightly behind here. But if we draw a ill-gotten inheritance, we're probably winning. Opponent deciding whether or not they want to chum block with the duelist or attack with it. Definitely not using the judgment, want to keep this for one of their bigger flyers. Alright. And I don't think we need to trade Juggler for Ministrant if we don't want to. Alright, opponent's down to 4. This could be a Chillbringer turn. Skitter Eel instead. So we've got a lot riding on the Syndicate Messenger at the moment. Alright, let's get in there. Yeah, we can also block with a Pontiff and give it Death Touch. Also beats the Skitter Eel since we've got a free sacrifice in Plague White anyway. So that's probably what we want to do instead of using Summary Judgment here. Keep the Judgment for the flyers that we can block with Pontiff. Opponent's down to 2. Guess we'll pass a turn here. Alright, they've got something in hand still. Not sure what it is. Definitely taking it here, don't want them to have the spirit tokens. Alright, Drake. It's unfortunate. So probably just hard casting Blade Juggler and then eventually we can try and attack with everyone. Looks like another Essence Capture. Alright, so the 2 of those. It's too bad. Yeah, that's a pretty big setback. Guess we'll play our land to play around Quench. But still, if at any point we draw Inheritance, our opponent's dead. And they're pretty far away from being able to turn the corner and attack us. So we've got time. Not infinite time, but a little bit. If we draw our Consign to the Pit that we boarded in, that's also lethal on the spot. I think we're fine using the Judgment here. A 3/3 Fairy Duelist I'm willing to kill. Even though Drake is more valuable. Alright, Grudian. So still can't really attack with everyone, but maybe next turn. Unless they drew more counterspells. So 21 cards remaining. We've got Consign to the Pit and 2 Inheritances that pretty much win us the game on the spot. Some removal spells that might also win us the game by getting rid of the Drake. Locket for the redraws. Alright, opponent's empty-handed. Can potentially draw into a 3-drop. So if they don't find a creature they can play, they would be dead to an attack with all. But it is a little bit sketchy to go for it. If they have something like Slimebind, we could get blown out. So we'll have to wait and see. Alright, so didn't draw anything relevant. So what happens if we attack with everyone? Let's say our opponent does have a Slimebind. If they don't have it, of course they're dead. So this is kind of a risk-reward thing. Yeah, we can sacrifice the thing they block with Ministrant to the Pontiff so they don't get the tokens. But we'll see. Alright, don't have to do anything. Alright, they're dead. So they might have also just gone full control to kind of make us think they had an instant, which is why it kind of held priority for a second there. Alright, so I think the fact their opponent kind of messed up at the start there by not playing the planes cost them pretty severely this game. Second Essence Capture does make Dead Revels a little bit better, since there's more ways for our creatures to end up in the graveyard. Could consider second Consign. Yeah, we didn't see Quench or Thought Collapse, so Consign's pretty likely to resolve. Of course, it is still a 6 mana card. Want to use those sparingly, but it does line up well against their 5 mana flyers. Yeah, it's unclear to me what we're supposed to take out. Like, Consign's going to be better than Summary Judgment sometimes when we are the aggressor, but we're going to be on the draw now. so less likely to be the aggressor. We're going to be behind on lands, so getting to 6 mana is less realistic. So I think we prefer Judgment over Consign, and I don't really see what else we want to take out. So I think I'm going to stick to the single Consign for now. Alright, don't think we can keep this, sadly. Alright. Do we keep second planes? It does let us cast Griffin, but it could also let us flood out. So I don't think we want to keep that. Could definitely regret it, but want to play the swamp in case we want to bedeck. I guess we're still into keeping up a deck. So kind of a slow start. Didn't have an early creature to pressure them, sadly. At least we drew a lot of planes, so I'm happy we scried that one to the bottom, otherwise we would have flooded out pretty severely. So the hope is that they tap out for a 5-drop, we get to bedeck it, untap, play Griffin, instead of them keeping up a counterspell. Alright, Forbidding Spirits, but they're still keeping up Essence Capture here, which is pretty obvious. Could still bedeck it, so we don't fall too far behind. And also means that they don't have a creature to put the counter onto, otherwise we can no longer bedeck. So I think that's acceptable. I think we'll go with the Gutter Bones. Like, of course, if they don't have the Essence Capture, going for the Griffin is the best play. But it feels to me like they've got an Essence Capture, they've got 2 in the deck. Pretty reasonable for them to keep it up here. Opponent deciding whether or not they want to counter it. If they have a Fairy Duelist in hand, they're not too afraid of Gutter Bones. Concordia Pegasus lines up pretty well against our stuff. Yeah, we kind of want to draw an Inheritance, which they can't Essence Capture to pressure them. So we probably just gotta pass a turn, which feels bad, but we want to wait until we can double spell or opponent taps out and we can resolve a creature, or we find Inheritance to force them into action. I don't think running face first into an Essence Capture is going to be the way to go. Opponents with an Insight at instant speed, which is pretty good. Plays well with their Essence Captures. Messenger. Attack us for 1. Don't think we Judgment the Pegasus. Alright, we're not drawing too hot, so it's not looking good here. We can't make any significant plays. Can't attack, and we're behind on board. So it's not a good mix of things. Yeah, at some point we will just have to run into the Essence Capture since their opponent's got 1,000,000 mana. They can keep it up for the rest of the game. But I would prefer to play it in a turn where we can double spell. Could Judgment the Messenger, still gives them the 1/1 token, which is still annoying. Alright, let's see what they have. Chillbringer, it's pretty good here. Yeah, still can double spell. Pretty far behind, so now even Inheritance might not be enough to save us. We also have the Drill Bit that we boarded in that we could draw. So that's also a reason not to play our creatures yet. If we Drill Bit away the Essence Capture and resolve one of our flyers, we'll be in much better shape. Yeah, this feels bad, but I guarantee they have a counterspell in hand. But I guess I can prove it. But now the Chillbringer potentially grows into a 4/4 or the Pegasus into a 2/4, and it now blanks the Griffin as well. So yeah, they had the Essence Capture pretty clearly in hand the turn they played the Forbidding Spirit. Yeah, Essence on an empty board would have negated the +1 counter, that's definitely true. At that point, when they didn't have a board, we were also less incentivized to... Yeah, and now there's a drill bit. Feels bad. When they didn't have a board, we were also less incentivized to make them have it. Because if at that point, let's say we draw Inheritance, then they're going to be forced to tap out, and we could sneak our creatures past the counterspell because they're forced to take action because of the Inheritance. So there's definitely a lot of factors to consider. Not sure we made the right call there, but a difficult one to answer. Alright, we'll drill bit. Another Essence Capture. Yeah, we're just dead here. Windstorm Drake as well. Alright, I think we can wrap this one up. Probably have to take the Drake here. The only chance we have is if we take the Drake and then kill all their creatures one by one. But I don't think our deck has enough removal to accomplish that. I guess we might as well capture the Pegasus. So we're gonna take 7 down to 6. Consign to the pit Chillbringer. Take 3 down to 3. Alright, never mind. GG's. Well, we tried our best. But I don't think any line of play would have beaten the opponent's cards there. Alright, 4-1. Can still get to 5 wins here if we win the last one. We'll be on the play. Hand looks keepable. Plague White hopefully into Juggler with Spectacle. And a Bedeck we can cast. Up against Gruul, we haven't faced any big green creature decks in this run. So we'll see how we'll fare against those. Could be a Gates deck as well, I suppose. Land is nice, so we've got a good start here. Double white for Griffin. So I don't hate where this is going. Open the gates. Alright, so clearly looking like a gate deck. Sparmangler we can flash in end of turn. Play around on Gates Ablaze. Clamor Shaman, not what I expected here. But I think we're pretty happy seeing that, since we get to add a Sparmangler to the board. Untap and then kill Shaman. Keep up the pressure. And I guess we'll Bedeck. So down to 6. Alright. So that was a quick one against what looked like a Gates deck, but Clamor Shaman kind of threw me off, so maybe it is just a Gruul deck with a lot of Gates in it for maybe a Ram or a Colossus. Either way, we might want to go a bit bigger with Consign and maybe Drill Bit. Especially against the Gates deck, Drill Bit is going to be quite good, taking away their payoff cards before they can deploy them. And Consign can kill the larger creatures, especially if they're a Gruul deck. Consign's not bad. I don't think this is a matchup for Crocodile, but it could be okay. Depends kind of how their deck looks like. It's hard to say from what we've seen. Footlight Fiend does play well with Bladebrand, but overall I think it's going to be a bit too low impact. If our opponent appears to be a Gruul aggro deck with a bunch of 1 toughness goblins, then we can reconsider the Fiend, but for now I think I'll take it out. Inheritance could be good against the Gate deck, depending on how many big creatures they play early. Not great against the Gruul deck, typically speaking, so I don't mind cutting 1 potentially. So, could consider Consign, could consider Drill Bit. I think I will cut an Inheritance for Consign, Drill Bit, and then I might consider going up to 17 lands, since we made room for Consign, but we are on the draw, so we do get to see maybe an extra card and an extra land. So on the draw I think I'll stick to 16, but on the play we might go up to 17. And this hand is lacking a 2-drop for the juggler, but I don't think we can mulligan. And they put us on the play. Interesting. It's not what I would have expected. And a Caretaker turn 1. So putting us on the play kind of implies that their opponent has a lot of early defensive measures, and Caretaker definitely one of those, and a hybrid, so who knows what they're playing. Could still be okay to demise the hybrid right now, so they don't get to tap it for mana with Caretaker if that's what they intend to do. Or we could wait until we can Judgment it. Of course, does run into some pump spells. I think I like demising, since we will have to answer the hybrid at some point, and might as well take away more options of them being able to ramp with Caretaker. Alright, let's play Bellhaunt. They could have also brought in Caretaker out of the sideboard, as we see Blade Juggler, so our opponent's on Jund essentially. Alright, so we've got a good attack with Bellhaunt. And then we'll play Blade Juggler, and then keep up single black, and we've got a Plains in hand. I think that's okay. Alright, no need to do anything else. So I don't hit our spots. Got Grudian to maybe block a big green creature, Judgment as removal, and Dead Revels in case some creatures trade. So it does appear to be just a Gruul deck with a lot of gates, instead of a dedicated gates deck. Opponents might trade off Goblin for Juggler here, which is fine considering Dead Revels. So we'll attack with both. Don't think we want to Dead Revels a single creature. Just play a Grudian for now. We might keep a single land in hand at some point. Opponent could be splashing Carnival Carnage, but still want enough lands in play that we can effectively use Dead Revels. Yeah, there's Carnival, so maybe taking it out using 2 burn spells could be Skewer the Critics here. Oh wow, this Dead Revels is looking great. And a Troll, so this game's looking very good. I think I'm into Dead Revels, get back Bellhaunts over Troll, because they have missed quite a few land drops, so they have all action in hand. Of course, Troll does apply more pressure. Nah, I think we'll go with the Bellhaunts. They had to 2-for-1 themselves to get rid of it the first time around, so that kind of implies they don't have any great answer to it, and their opponent's just gonna concede, understandably. Well, that was a pretty brutal game. And there we go. Vanquisher's Banner, pretty thematic. 5-1, so pretty successful black-white aggro draft at the end of the day. So let's claim our prize and crack some packs. Got some gems. Probably gonna see mostly gems from now on. Maybe 1 or 2 mythic rares that we haven't opened yet. Alright. That was a fun draft. And had some interesting games along the way. But yeah, for now, want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed. And as always, have a nice day. I also want to thank all my patrons for being part of the channel, and you can become a patron yourself today and decide the topic of future videos over at patreon.com/LegenVD.